Okay, so here's a photocopy of one of my favorite comic book covers, the King Size Special Incredible Hulk #1, Hulk Battles the Inhumans. And I just loved this picture as a kid, and I thought I would redraw it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw the arm muscles. You know, it looked so awesome as a kid and everything, but then, you know, you grow up and you start looking at anatomy and this and that, and you find that your favorite artists sometimes didn't know the anatomy as well as maybe you thought they did as a kid. So and that's not to put down these awesome artists from the past. They inspired so many people. However, I just thought, hey, you know what, I'm studying arm anatomy right now, and I wanted to look, and I did. I looked at a lot of Marvel comic book covers and looked at the anatomy that they used and drew in, and I just thought, it would be fun with the tools we have available now to maybe refine the anatomy a little bit. So that's all I'm going to try and do, is refine the anatomy a little bit. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to trace this just to save some time here. I have redrawn this picture from reference, and that was a lot of fun, but because all I want to do right now is work on the arms, I'm just going to do a rough trace here. And we have the letter covering the arm a little bit, but that won't deter us from getting done what we want to do here. And I'll put in the deltoids here because those are correct. And from there, and then we have the wrist here. It's really cool, the shapes that they use to, I'm not sure, this reminds me of John Buscema, but I'm not sure if it was John Buscema, but it might have been. The serratus, always loved the serratus muscles when they drew them. That was always cool. The famous purple pants. So this is just to give me a framework to work with. Okay, I don't think we need much more than that. Oh yeah, right, he had the other arm going over the head here. Okay, but we don't need much more than that. Anyway, okay, so let's get to the arm now and see if we can get the anatomy right. Just look at all these lines here. I'm trying to figure out what they might represent. That's the bicep. But where's there's the deltoids right here, here and here, front, center or middle, and then the back, bicep, and then I don't know what this thing is. Is that the brachioradialis? Is that the Anconeous there? Maybe that's what it is. That would definitely be the tricep tendon right down here. And then you'd have the Anconeous, and then all the extensors. So maybe that's what they are. So anyway, our job is to refine it today. All right. So I think I'll turn the arm this way because it'll make more sense to me. And being the Hulk, we're going to puff up those biceps a little bit. The brachioradialis. like that. So this is the Jim Lee, still a screenshot from Jim Lee's Critical Anatomy Lines video, and he draws in these little crow's feet here, which when I analyze it, maybe it wasn't as accurate as it could be, but he was doing this in a hurry, so I'm sure he knows exactly. Anyway, so we're going to have the brachioradialis. So the brachioradialis here, and then the E.C.R.L. They're kind of combined. E.C.R.L, the Extensor, Carpi, Radialis, Longus. The E.C.R.L. Okay, so even with this dude here, who's got, you know, amazing arms and everything like that, there's the brachioradialis. Okay, but it's hard to see. There's the brachioradialis, there's the E.C.R.L. Here's the Anconeous right here that comes down. Now that's hard to see. This is the brachioradialis, and then the brevis and mini-me is in there and all those other things. But to see the actual Anconeous muscle right here that comes down, I guess that's it right here. And then all these extensors come out of here. Okay, so we might have to draw it in like this, like that, and then because these extensors would go under that, so that's maybe why you see that bulge there. And there's the Anconeous, and then this is one of the flexors under here, so we're not going to deal with that. And that's where, you know, the actual elbow bone is right here, right there, the tip of the elbow. And of course then you have the ridge of the bone, and that goes right down to the wrist knuckle. That's why you have that big indentation in your arm right there. So it's here. That's a combination of the brachioradialis and the E.C.R.L, the Extensor Carpi Radialis Longus. And then we have the Anconeous, and that's what makes this V shape here. And then we have all these extensors coming out here. And there's basically 1, 2, and then this one here, 3 and 4, with the mini-me coming out of it right there. Okay, so that's hard to see in that guy, but we found them. So we have the deltoids, which is really a complex group, but there's mainly 3 portions: the middle, the front, and the back. And then we have the elbow right here. Yeah, so here's the elbow, and then here is the tendon. Here's the tendon of the triceps, and then the triceps come around like this. Now, what we have here and here, and this maybe comes down a little farther. Let's see. Yeah, this would come down a little farther here, like this. The E.C.R.L would come down like that. So I'm going to fix that. And the brachioradialis would come down over on top of that, much more like that. So there we have the brachioradialis, and the E.C.R.L. Now we've got the elbow here, like that, and here's where those critical lines come out of here. So we have the Anconeous sitting right here in front of the elbow, and it comes down like that. Here, this is the ridge of the arm that goes to that knuckle on the elbow. What am I talking about? Goes to the knuckle on the wrist. Okay, so there's that wrist knuckle right there. So this is the Anconeous. Anconeous. Okay, only two letters. Okay. E.C.R.L, Brachioradialis. Here is the Brachialis. It goes right up to and touches the Brachioradialis meets with the deltoids. There we go. And then here's the bicep here, which if I put this lower, then it's more correct. So biceps. And then in here we have all the extensors here. Brachioradialis and the E.C.R.L both have tendons going right down to the wrist like this. And then we have those crossover muscles that go across the wrist like that. And then the hand kind of starts here. So maybe, well, that's the thumb of the Hulk right there. Let's do it like this. There's the thumb of the Hulk, and then we've got shadows, I guess, to represent the knuckles. I'm just going to draw them the way I would think about doing it here. I would even make his brachioradialis bigger. Lots of radiation. Okay, so there we go. We've got now this tricep kind of splits up a little bit into a few sections here. Okay. Now in here is all the extensors, and they kind of come out like this. One section here, and then they split apart here, and then the mini-me, I call it the mini-me, what is it called? The Extensor digiti mini-me, but I just call it the mini-me, is right here, like that. And then, so we did that, and then we have the brevis. So yeah, so I think if we just smooth this out here, then we would have the E.C.R.B, which is much smaller than the E.C.R.L. So we can draw it here, and it stops right before these crossover muscles because they get stopped by the Extensor digitorum. What's this one called? The E.C.R.B. No, E.C.R.B. is there. And this one is called the ECU, Extensor Carpi ulnaris, because that's the one that travels down the ulna bone and turns into that knuckle on the wrist. These are the flexors down here. Flexor, carpi, Radialis ulnaris, or flexor carpi ulnaris. So this is the FLU. It's the flu. It's, you know, you have one group of muscles above the ulna bone ridge, and then you have the flexors below. Flexor carpi, FCU. Flexor carpi. I don't know what carpi is. Ulnaris. Okay, anyway. And then it goes into the wrist, and there's a band of, I don't know if it's ligaments or tendons that goes across your wrist right here to keep everything in place. Imagine those weren't there, your tendons would all pop out and nothing would work. So all those things has to be in place for your body to work. They can't happen over an extended period of time. They all have to be there. Okay, so anyway, now we have an arm that looks anatomically correct. So that's pretty awesome. So even though you don't need to draw all of these in, we are talking about the Incredible Hulk here. So drawing in some of them would be cool. Now, I wonder, I have a plan, and I will be back. Okay, and so lastly, I'm going to do another quick trace here, and what I'm going to do is just refine again the arm anatomy. And instead of putting in every single muscle, I'm just going to put in a few let me just get this trace done here. Okay, I think that's all we need here. So I mean, even with the Incredible Hulk, you don't need to draw in every single muscle every time you draw them, but you probably want to feature a few nice lines to give your drawing some dynamism. To give your drawing some extra oomph. Let's put it that way. All right, let's leave it there. So, if I was going to do my own drawing here, and I can shut off the light table now. So what would I want to put in on the anatomy? Well, for me, and it's the Incredible Hulk, of course, I would definitely want to do the biceps. So they've got to be there. And then here at the elbow, you know, you're going to definitely want to put in the tendon and the tricep tendon and get that tricep happening there. And then the brachioradialis maybe, and the E.C.R.L, and then the Anconeous is going to be right here, right? And the E.C.R.L is going to be here. So that's going to be that main landmark right there. And then from there, you can split it up as many ways as you want. I'm just going to do this big one here. The only other thing I'll do though is from the Anconeous here, I'll do that because there's the bump on the wrist there that I keep talking about right there. and there's that ridge down to your elbow, right? Everybody has that ridge in their arm right there, if you can see it. Right there, all the way down to the bump on the wrist. So that's something that I'm going to put in like that. Okay. And then the back of the wrist doesn't have a whole lot unless you're super charged. So, you know, I might put in something there for those wristbands there, and maybe just a little hint of the mini-me there, something like that. So that's still a lot of musculature, a lot of anatomy, and it's looking pretty cool. Maybe do that, something like that. And then there's the collarbone, like that. And of course you can get into all kinds of shading and rendering and all that kind of stuff. There's the sternocleidomastoid and that other major tendon. So that'd probably be what I would do, something like that, instead of putting in everything like that. However, now that I have this, this is a great reference, and maybe I'll make that arm available, and this one too available. All right, so there you go. So that's some nice practice on how to draw anatomy for the arm. So that's it. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. And don't forget to check out part 2 where I ink and color this drawing, and make sure you download those practice sheets from the free link below. I know you're going to really enjoy them. They're going to help you a lot. And guys, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments any other anatomy parts that you would like me to do a video on.